Okay, not a bad looking virtual background. Can you, how are you, Smriti?
I could change it. I actually don't. I'm great. I don't know how to change it. So I guess I'll just leave it unless you would like me to change it. I don't know what the aesthetic of your show is.
Oh, wait a minute. You need aesthetics for a show? I need to
No.
start thinking about aesthetics now that you. Actually, I mean, it's really easy if you.
I like your aesthetic. The kettle.
Mine is a kitchen sink, so I don't know, with running water, so I'm not sure. I can tell you how to change it if you want to, but it's your call. I don't. It's
I'll keep it as is. It's fine.
Okay, sounds good. Nice to make your acquaintance.
Nice to meet you as well.
It would be pretty weird if this was my choice for a virtual background, but
here you go. You get to see
my only other option right now, because behind that door is a teenager, so the only other option I have is sitting on a couch and there's just either a ugly curtain or too much light. So I just thought this is the best doing it here in this little spot on the counter.
Standing is good.
Yeah, and then I'm standing. Exactly. I should do that more. Oh, look at that. You've done it. What a charming.
I did it. I figured it out.
You're a genius. What is the are you in New York?
I am in New York, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. And I see you have
and you too?
Yes, I am in New York State, but I'm not in the city right now.
Okay.
So I wasn't. Good.
I was just saying New York State is a pretty good place to be right now.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I'm not leaving New York State. I've decided this is a really good state to be in and to stay in. And I mean, I've been living in the city for a long time, and I just late June I departed for the time being. But
yeah, my husband and I we lived half of our time in Spain, but we just got a mountain up in Vermont, and we're just like in love with it. It's really, feel really lucky that we get to be in nature.
Where is it in Vermont? You have a place
in Vermont? Yeah, southern Vermont. Well, we just have a mountain now, but we'll slowly build something.
You have a mountain? I didn't. Are mountains for sale?
11 acres.
Yeah.
If nothing else, we're preserving land.
There you go. Right. There's a mountain in Brooklyn I have for sale if you're interested.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, no, like, so not probably too far from Brattleboro. Maybe that's like the first big town when you're entering Vermont.
Yeah, that's exactly where we are. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly where we are. Not too far from Brattleboro.
All right, very good. Well, I was pleasantly pleased. I'm doing this thing where I'm also using my resources to get behind, well, more typically or historically filmmakers and film-related professionals. But I decided that, the arts really are so vital and are also going through a difficult time. And so I thought, well, let me just try to, plus I kind of want to expand what I'm doing into the arts and in a broader sense. So that's when I saw the press release about what you're doing. It really sort of, resonated. I thought, what a great project, especially going into this coming week, right? So,
yeah.
It kind of feels like a beginning and an end.
It couldn't be
right.
It does. Oh, I love that you said that. I often think about things in that way as like as beginnings and thinking about time. You know, how much time, how many hours, how many words, like just trying to find patterns in a lot of the things. So yeah, I agree. And it's funny because I can't stop but reflect and go back to 4 years ago and where I was. And obviously because of this, like it started 4 years ago, just really thinking about that time period and now, you know, as a perhaps a beginning or end, but maybe it's just a continuation.
Mm-hmm. Well, this whole idea of a continuum is very much central to your project, your piece, correct? I mean, it's
Yeah.
Right, disintegration, which I guess is what you call it. There, it's disintegration, but it's integration as well.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, how it all started was I think I really remember where I was the night of the 2016 election. I think in a way that probably a lot of us do. And I basically didn't want to forget where I was. I didn't want to forget everything that was going on. So I started this daily ritual where I collected a single headline every day from the New York Times on Donald Trump's presidency. And at first, the headlines were like bullet points. You know, they reminded me of the day before. They were just reminders, so I wouldn't forget what was going on. But what was kind of interesting is as time went through, you would notice all of these patterns in the headlines. You would notice these like mini narratives that would form. You know, how things were placed, the language that was being used, the writers who were writing them, the thematic through lines between previous days' headlines or previous year's headlines. And it felt a lot like almost like warfare in a way, just these different like strategies that were sort of set in place. But fast forward
What
to,
strategies?
you know, now, yeah.
I was going to just ask you
So
strategies from the perspective of journalism, or did you feel like
yeah,
there were darker forces at work behind there?
I wouldn't say necessarily darker forces, but I want to say that it's more almost like navigation. And so ultimately, when and I say that meaning like I understood what my role as like an audience was as well. Like in the beginning, it just felt like drowning. I think we probably all remember there was just so much change and so much of chaos, and even the 100 days that there's so much that you forget, and it's so hard to remember when the next day's headline has an equally polarizing point of view. And so, but ultimately, so in the beginning, it felt like drowning. And then quickly after I started seeing the rhythm of it, it felt a bit like warfare. As I was saying, like this person's doing this person's doing this other thing, then this comes back. But then now that we're towards the end, especially as you see the headlines in Disintegration and Secession one after another, it does feel a little bit more like navigation. And it reminds me of almost the addictive impact that the newsroom has had on like our American psyche. And when I say navigation, I mean that it helps me understand like the winds, the tides, the currents, the season, and the principles of almost like growth and decay. And I'm able to have an outsider lens on like this is actually this new ecosystem that's going on. And the way that I think of it is like that there's this symbiotic relationship between Donald Trump, between the media, and between us. And we're all living in this paradox where I think of it as like the war of the words, where the new front lines are actually the headlines. Instead of like swords and bombs and guns, we are fighting for, or it's the attention of the front page or the attention of humans that's really at stake here.
Mm-hmm. And what did you, when you started off, did you, because you said your motivation was not to forget where you were at when the election happened in 2016. Did you but you had no idea though where you were going to land, like, and what you were going to discover through collecting this headline every day. You couldn't have anticipated that, right, at the time?
No, no. And early on, I didn't even know that this was a project for an audience. This was just a personal, almost like both coping mechanism and a mechanism to make sense of it. Sorry, what was the question?
Oh, no, I was saying,
did I miss?
It was a coping mechanism. I understand. Many people chose alcohol, but you chose headlines. I don't know why there's such a delay, but we're experiencing a little delay.
But that delayed laughter must be quite fulfilling. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, it was never my aim, to paint Donald Trump in a positive or negative light. It was never my aim to paint the media in a positive or negative light, or even us. And a lot of my work, it's more so to be able to leave people with questions. And we're sort of, I think it's important for us to realize that we're sort of at this point where there's just relentless coverage of him. There's this complete overdose where there's almost this like toxic saturation that we've become incapable of making sense of reality. I think Donald Trump and the presidency has seeped into every aspect of our lives. It's in every single conversation. And Disintegration is really a mirror that captures that, because the new warfare, if you will, that we're living in is for human attention. And human attention is such a scarce commodity, but the media jockeys for our attention. And what has resulted is that we're in this time period that there's this assault of the news and of news stories being delivered to us at an incalculable speed in a way that it has never been before. So it's uncharted.
So it seems like the PTSD we'll inevitably feel is just as much a result of the media reporting as it is actually Donald Trump himself.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know about you, but a lot of people that I've spoken to, whether it is journalists, whether it's, friends or family, everyone is caught in this state of paralysis. We're like hooked. And right now, America is the third most depressed country in the world, according to just like news reports that had come out 2 months ago, or research. And we're all in this state of limbo. And I think a lot of people are just waiting and holding on for the outcome of next week. But I hope that we have both like the courage to be able to move forward, and also realize this like chokehold that the media and that Donald Trump's presidency has had over us, and be able to lift away from that trance, from that state of limbo.
Well, hopefully. I mean, hopefully we'll just have nothing but time on our hands and PTSD and a sense of of kind of, I don't know, zero gravity or something. I'm trying to say is that hopefully we'll be the election will turn out in a positive way, and we'll be able to start. The average person who hasn't put in as much thought as you have will start to be able to make sense of the last 4 years and what they've gone through, from just a psychological standpoint. But see, with the help maybe of your piece, if you're living near RAM in Brooklyn, you have an opportunity to experience your piece into Disintegration, headlines or frontlines. Now, explain exactly, first of all, visually what we're going to experience, or you don't have to do it exactly, but maybe help me figure out how it's going to look visually, what the experience might be like. And it's going to be on the BAM sign on Flatbush.
That's right. Yeah. So I think all of us know that 2020 is a great example of mother being the necessity of invention. And we originally, when we had made Disintegration, it was made for in theaters, set to live scores with orchestras meant for around the world. And it was meant to be this like meditation of the last 2 years for people to be able to experience. And then with the reality of, you know, of the COVID world, we really thought about how could we still be able to bring this to people. And we had been talking to BAM about having it, you know, inside their theaters. And when the opportunity presented itself of Bonsai, which we talk about as the fifth stage or the fifth screen at BAM, it was, it was really exciting that we were able to make it work. So the film is 2 hours long, and it's very simple. It's actually just text and the date. So starting October 31st until November 4th, the film is going to play for 24 hours under the BAM sign. And there's a fantastic score set by the British musician Matthew Herbert. And we spent a lot of time talking about this project and the score and what does it sound like? What is the sound world for it? So people can come and access the score through headphones as they're there.
But if you're driving on Flatbush, you're not supposed to text and drive at the same time.
You are not supposed to text and drive at the same time.
So you're kind of you're texting for
Those are
them.
Official words.
Right. We're making a disclaimer here, though. If you're driving east on Flatbush, I think it's east, don't drive, don't start reading. Look where you're going, for God's sake. But if you're a pedestrian, stop by and experience that. And then it's going to move into what is the other screen? I thought I wrote it down, but there's another screen that it'll move to, or it's going to also play it. Am I wrong, or is it just the one on?
Yeah, so there's 2 screens at BAM. Yeah, there's the vertical screen, and then there is Signy, the billboard. So it'll be at both at the same time.
I see. Okay. And you mentioned Matthew Herbert, who composed the score, and it was also produced by Marius de Vries. And it's from what in the press notes that I read, he's taken between the both of them, they've taken the Star Spangled Banner and refractured it. They've kind of messed with it.
Yeah. It was really exciting to have Matthew Herbert join. He's really prolific. He's this incredible British musician, and he spent the last 25 years really questioning all aspects of the sound world. And when he, in all of his own art and his own work, he tells a story of something through music, but music that's aware of everyone and everything and every story that's embedded in the process of its creation, along with its like production, distribution, or broadcast. So he has this album, which was one of the first things I heard, called One Pig, and it's the entire process of a pig from birth until to table. And so I knew he thinks quite conceptually. So I knew if he was up for the challenge, he was going to bring quite an experimental and conceptual approach to it. Mm-hmm. And so with Matthew, Marius, and I, we would often talk about the end, where does this end? But with this narrative, we have absolutely no idea how it ends. It's unfolding and unraveling every single day. So it was important for him that he wanted the process of making the music to be almost like the process of creating the headline, so that the music itself was, produced during the presidency. So he took a rendition of the Star Spangled Banner, and that's been stretched, distorted, and mixed over the course of 2 hours. And
wait a minute, so you're saying that the song isn't already 2 hours? Because sometimes it feels like, depending on who's singing it, it can feel like it's 2 hours already, but sorry. So I have to add a little light moments. It's an intense conversation. Sorry, I apologize.
No, please don't. I should do that too. I'm going to add some light moments in here.
So that I'm certain there are.
There definitely is. There's actually a lot of humor in like as well, and I think that's what's interesting about Disintegration is that in even within my own process of grabbing the headlines, some of the you really get to know the writers and you get to see the different ways that like the humor section, the art section has dealt with it, and like how it has really penetrated all aspects of our world. But even some of the opinions, some of the titles, it just there's everything. It's like at moments it's complete despair, at moments it's hope, at moments there's humor, and all of it really depends on your point of view, because and it all depends on your own like political leniency. For some people, the film might feel like a celebration, but for other, it feels like a requiem of sorts. And it was important to me that I wasn't focused on political divides. You know, I wanted to create a piece that could have different perspectives and unfold simultaneously for people differently. You know, and more importantly, like bring to light this paradox, you know, that we're in, the world's obsession with Trump, the world's obsession with media, the world's obsession and addiction to headlines. You know, how can we recognize that force and question our own relationship?
It sounds as though you used almost journalistic standards because you made a point of staying as objective as possible, or you just remained objective. But interestingly, what I noticed, and this isn't exactly just something that I discovered, but the New York Times, for instance, among other media outlets, grew into a less objective, direction with Donald Trump's presidency. They felt compelled to start to kind of push back against him. I mean, he deserves it, but you wouldn't have seen that, and you never saw that before. But I'm just assuming that's one of the things that you probably notice is that all of a sudden the New York Times is calling Donald Trump a liar. You've never seen that before.
Right. I mean, the entire process brings into light the idea of like ethics as it relates to this, and power and bias. Even by my own process, because if you think about it, any given day there would be upwards of 22 headlines. So by me selecting a single headline specifically that has bias in it, why did I choose, the Iran deal over something else? So every decision, even decisions made in a mission, are decisions that are shaping how this moment is going to be.
I mean, you could have put all of the headlines in a hat, I suppose, and just arbitrarily chose one. But it's too late now.
Mm-hmm.
Too late.
It's too late now.
You've done what you've made your bed. Well, we'll collaborate next time. You need me.
Yeah, I'll call you. What do you think of this method?
Yeah.
Put it in a hat. But in that sense, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, and that in a way that this process is both a mirror but also a hammer, because the way that it's like we're showing the last 4 years condensed in 2 hours, but by the selection of the headlines, it's hammering how this moment will be remembered. And when Disintegration, lives as an artifact of the last 4 years, it's going to paint a specific picture. And that is also another inner working or strategy of this warfare that we have to be aware of, of how truth and fiction get portrayed.
Okay. So those who don't live in New York or in Brooklyn or in New York, will people be able to experience this elsewhere or in some other way soon? So more people can.
Yes, we have absolutely. So we have a website right now. It's called headlinesarefrontlines.art, and we'll have updates soon on how others can experience it. We're in the middle of figuring that out. The project had a tease. It was on trucks that went all around the country this past week. So it was in 15 different cities around the country, both major cities as well as battleground counties. So we were everywhere from like Flint, Michigan, and Scranton, Pennsylvania, to New York, Miami, LA, and we are in the process of figuring out the next stage of it.
Well, I'll keep in touch, and we'll continue to apprise people of how they can experience Disintegration. Headlines are frontlines, and
if anybody wants to read the I was saying if anybody wants the Excel sheet with all the headlines, they can call me. If anybody wants the Excel sheet with all the headlines, they can call me.
Oh, okay. Well, that's quite a generous offer. I mean, I don't know if I'm sure you want to do that, but
I'm joking.
I know. Maybe you can text. Maybe we can somehow figure out how to post it. Yeah. Text it to the BAM sign if that's even technologically possible. But wow, it's so nice to meet you, Smriti, and glad to have had the opportunity to talk to you about your project and let people know about it. And
thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a fun morning. Thanks, Adam.
Good. I'm glad. Me too. I thought so too. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right.
All right.
You too. Bye.
Bye.